moving on swiftly to the cost of living in France. So let's touch a bit more about that. In general, I find, having lived in both the USA, the UK, that France in general, maybe not if you're in Paris like we are today, is a little bit cheaper than the rest of the world. Is that still the case? Do you think that, how do you find it when you go to other countries?
I believe that France is very different depending on the location. Because I know France quite well. My friend called me François le Français, you know, and I'm a road trip lover. But all around Europe, especially France, because I really like driving around. And of course, I don't like to drive in big cities. So I like to drive in the countryside. And I find it so cheap. You can get some very nice hotel, very nice food, very nice things for very little money in France. Auvergne, when you go, Cantal, Aveyron, Lozère. I mean, all these places are very nice and very cheap. On the other hand, as soon as you're reaching the Côte d'Azur, Riviera, going to Paris, going in every big city and on the coast, actually, the cost of living is growing quite a lot. And I would say it's quite close from the UK, again, big cities, but the US remain much more expensive than France.
So overall, if you're retiring on a budget, France is actually probably a really good idea.
Absolutely, but don't think that it's very cheap, okay? Because anyway, France is still a very developed country. Even though it's cheaper than the US, it's still costly to live here. And don't forget that once you're in France, you'll be willing to do some stuff. So think about it and save money to do some
nice stuff. I was talking with a client yesterday who was considering coming for a test for 90 days, not applying for his visa, and then going back to the US and coming back to France. And my advice was probably just go and get your visa, move to France, so that actually you don't live for 90 days as if you were on holiday. Because otherwise your cost of living, if you spend those first 90 days as a holidaymaker, you're going to spend a lot more money.
You're going to think, oh, it's very expensive. No, it's
so actually settling somewhere is probably pretty good.
Absolutely.
And average bills and insurance, I think, are around 20% cheaper. I think really only the cost of petrol or gas, are we going to use American English, is probably more expensive, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great. Last thing to talk about, but not least, is the cost of actually getting, or the cost, not just the cost, but the actual difficulty of getting somewhere to live. Would you recommend renting? Would you want to buy straight away? What do you think?
My advice when I talk to our clients is always the same. Don't buy straight away. Unless you know France and you know the country very well. But if this is your first time, don't buy straight away. Why? Because you might not like it. And you might not like this place, because France is big. France has many different locations. So my personal advice, just my opinion, is come to France unless you know the country very well, which is fine. But if you don't, just come and rent in different places so that you can get to know the country. And then once you're 100% sure you want to stay, then you can start buying. But personally, I would always buy because, I'm an accountant. I like to own stuff.
Yeah, I agree. But a lot of our clients are quite happy renting for the rest of their time in France, especially if it's a kind of phase of their life, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And I think where people worry is that it's going to be difficult to find a rental, which to a certain extent it is. We've of course got solutions, and actually your sister helps with the property side of things in our business. But in general, I think contracts are very fair. You can negotiate with the landlord. You've got a rental contract, you're safe, right?
Actually, as you know, France is very protective with the tenant and not the owner. So you have nothing to worry about once you have a contract.
So that's what's actually maybe misinterpreted, I think, just generally speaking, is that it's going to be very difficult to find a rental. Why is it very difficult to find a rental? Because once you're in that rental, you're safe. This is your home for life, pretty much. They can never kick you out. Awesome. Well, that's great.
That's the thing,
Well, it just shows you that I guess that France is a great place if you're looking to retire from the US, whether you want to rent or buy.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
France is the place, I would say.